My wife admitted that she hates having intimacy with me, but she refuses to accept our divorce. I think she's trying to trick me. My wife and I have been married for 4 years, and up until a year and a half ago, things were fantastic. Our marriage began to deteriorate after there was a significant drop in sex between us, not intimacy, just the actual eggs part of the relationship. We would still cuddle and have deep, intimate moments talking and just being around each other, but she kept rejecting my attempts at taking things further past kissing. Now, we have had no problem communicating, so I addressed it early, and we talked and made adjustments. We both made sure to stay in shape, we tried being more adventurous, went to couples therapy/counseling, and even tested our hormone levels. Each solution would work for a while, and then we'd return to having sex maybe once a month. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, to which she denied every time. I asked her if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. Well, about a month ago, she got back from her therapy session and told me that she believes that she's asexual, and that's the reason for her libido being non-existent as of late. I was confused because we had such great sex for a while at the beginning of our relationship, but her telling me that she's now asexual was heartbreaking because everything else is great. I'm not going to force her to have intimacy, so we had a long conversation about our relationship, and I concluded that we should get a divorce. I say because she immediately rejected the idea and said we would figure something out and wouldn't talk to me about it anymore. I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. Well, 3 weeks went by, and I decided that I had to do this for my own mental well-being, so I filed for divorce and had her served with the papers. Last week, when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she had signed the papers, and she flat out said, "We are not getting a divorce," changed the subject, and acted like things were normal. I thought this was crazy, so I stopped her and said I couldn't be in a marriage devoid of intimacy, and I mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with our divorce. She can keep the house we bought and paid for with cash, I'd take all of the debt, which isn't much, we'd split our savings and investments in half, and she can keep 2 of our 3 paid-off cars. Thankfully, we don't have kids. I love her and want her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make a good income. But she won't budge or talk about the divorce. This brings us to 2 days ago. I get home and go to our bedroom and find my wife's friend in our bed naked. I immediately shut the door, apologized, and looked for my wife. I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing there, and she said that she was there for me. I put 2 and 2 together and said that I'm not having sex with other women in place of the woman I chose to marry. She was adamant about saying that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted and that her friend agreed to it. I couldn't believe things would get this far, so I returned to our bedroom and asked her friend to leave. I packed a bag, and I'd been staying at a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keep calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Update: my wife visited my hotel last night and talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what was happening in her mind. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family have known this since she was 16. This is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after the sex between them diminished to non-existent after the first year. She told me that sex is easier for her in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still needs to force herself to have it. I knew they broke up due to unresolvable differences, but I didn't ask for details nor did she tell me. After a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate sex with for so long and that she did enjoy it a handful of times, but after a while, she still felt like she was being roped. I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to any of this. She said she tried her best to please me as much as possible. She still doesn't want a divorce, and she doesn't want the house, cars, or savings. She just wants me and is ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said that she would sign a postnup stating this. As for her friend, she was there during her last breakup and helped to support her through it. My wife went to her after I brought up the divorce and talked things out. Her friend suggested that she open the relationship for me, but she said she didn't want me sleeping with strange women, so her friend volunteered herself to be the one that sleeps with me. My wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame my friend. My lawyer got back to me, "You were all right. I don't need her permission, but I will have to wait if I want to push it through." I asked her why she lied to me this entire time, and she said she was tired of being rejected after revealing she was asexual, so she convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to have sex during the relationship. The hormone testing, the sessions in couples therapy, and all of our solutions were just her buying time to find another way around sex or give herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly having sex with me again. Our conversation ended with us holding each other in bed, crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have intimacy. She pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce to look for a solution together and left my hotel room. I don't know what I'm going to do. Update 2: after my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things. I've been staying at an extended stay since that night with her friend. We met at our house and talked for a few hours. She started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, her lying about her sexuality, and not taking my sexual needs more seriously. Before I could say anything, she presented a signed postnup agreement she had drafted with a lawyer stating that she didn't want anything, including the house, the cars, savings, and everything else. I felt like the biggest asshole for thinking that she was tricking me for more money. I asked her if she was serious, and she told me to take the postnup with me and sign it when I was ready. I told her that I still think divorce is our best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refused and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying, and so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. I told her that finding other women to sleep with me wasn't going to work. What if I develop feelings for them? What if I get one of them pregnant? Do we expect her to get a termination? She said we'll figure it out as we go along and to please give her more time to work on other solutions. She set up appointments for sex and hormone therapy, and it's seeing a sex guru. It sounded like we were going through the same things again, but she was adamant and pleaded with me to wait. There were more apologies on both sides, and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation. Then I returned to my hotel that night. I tried texting her a few days later, but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. Her dad told me that she had moved back home and had been holed up in her room since our talk, so she called out of work. He told me she barely eats, bathes, or talks to him or her mom. He asked me what I would do, but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understood and would be here to talk anytime I wanted to. So I returned to our house, and some of her stuff was gone. The whole place felt empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple of weeks to spend time with my family to decompress from this entire situation. I'm still on the divorce side of the fence, but there's no rush. Final update: the divorce was finalized months ago, our house was sold along with one of the cars, and my ex-wife is still living with her parents. I had more than 2-3 RDS of the proceeds wired to her account, but the last time I talked to her dad, she hadn't touched a dime. I was informed that she checked into a mental health clinic, but I don't know how long she was there or what her current state is. I changed my number, but her dad has emailed me a few times to check on me throughout this last year, which breaks my heart because he's a great man. His playing both sides of the fence like this made everything go a lot smoother. Other than not warning me, he's been a huge help. I moved back to my home state to be closer to my family. I may leave to go to another state again. I don't know, I'm not sure yet. I feel numb from this whole thing.